You know, people tell you that if you survive the first few years of marriage, the rest is smooth sailing. They lie. The truth is, love isn't built in the honeymoon phase. It's built in the quiet moments, when you're standing in the kitchen at midnight, cleaning up after a sick child. When you're counting quarters to pay the electric bill. When you're holding your partner's hand in a hospital waiting room, praying for good news. Jack and I had all of that. And I thought that meant we had everything. We met when I was just 22. I still remember what I was wearing, a simple white sundress, my hair a mess from the summer wind. It was a friend's backyard barbecue, and Jack was there with a group from work. He wasn't the loudest in the crowd, but there was something about the way he looked at me, like I was the only person there. He spilled iced tea on me that day. He was mortified, apologizing over and over. I laughed and told him it was fine, but he insisted on making it up to me. That makeup ended up being our first date. We had cheap pizza in a booth with a sticky table, walked in the park until the streetlights came on, and sat on a bench talking about everything from childhood dreams to the kind of house we'd want one day. Fast forward a few years, that house was a tiny 2-bedroom fixer-upper with wallpaper peeling in the corners and a leaky roof. But it was ours. We fixed it up with our own hands. We bought furniture one piece at a time, usually secondhand. That first couch, it smelled a little musty, but we didn't care. We had 2 kids, Michael and Sarah, and life became a blur of school plays, soccer games, and sleepless nights. Jack worked long hours, sometimes 7 days a week. I stayed home at first, then took a part-time job when the bills got too heavy. We weren't rich, but we had what mattered. And then somewhere along the way, the years started blending. Our conversations turned into grocery lists. Date nights got replaced with laundry folding in front of the TV. His laughter, the one I fell in love with, showed up less and less. About 2 years ago, I noticed changes. Subtle at first. He started buying new clothes. Not the practical jeans and work shirts he usually wore, but dress shirts, fitted slacks. He began using cologne again, a brand I didn't recognize. He'd say, "Eve got a late meeting," but when he came home, his hair was neatly styled, his phone glued to his hand. I told myself I was overthinking. After all, we had been together for 30 years. You don't just throw that away, right? Then came that night. He walked in late, coat still on, tie loosened, avoiding my eyes. He asked me to sit down. "Laura," he began, "I'm not happy." I felt the air leave my lungs. He continued, "I think Eve fallen in love with someone else." Her name was Hannah. 26. They worked together. "She makes me feel young again," he said. That sentence, it shattered me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, numb, while he packed a bag. 30 years, reduced to a suitcase and a muttered, "I'm sorry." The days after were a haze. I'd wake up, make 2 cups of coffee out of habit, and then stare at the untouched mug. I'd reach for my phone to text him something funny, only to remember. I avoided our bedroom, slept on the couch for weeks. People say time heals. Maybe. But those first months? Time just mocked me. And then slowly I started to live again. I took walks. I painted. I went to the farmer's market on Saturdays and talked to strangers. The silence of the house became less heavy. Until 10 months later, there was a knock on my door. Jack. Looking older. Smaller. Eyes tired. "Laura," he said quietly, "I made a mistake." And for the first time, I realized maybe I wasn't the same woman who once begged him to stay. I just stood there, one hand on the doorframe, the other clutching my sweater tight against my chest, staring at the man who once promised me forever. He looked so different, not just older, but worn. His posture had changed, like someone had been carrying too much weight for too long. The sharpness in his eyes, the one that used to light up when he saw me, was gone. I didn't speak first. I wanted to see what he would say without me filling the silence. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Can I come in?" Part of me wanted to slam the door right there. Another part, the part that remembered all the birthdays, all the hospital visits, all the Christmas mornings, told me to at least listen. I stepped aside. He walked in, looking around the house like it was unfamiliar. I realized then, it probably was. ID changed things. New curtains, new rug, the photos on the mantel rearranged. ID even moved the couch. He sat at the edge of the armchair, hands clasped like a schoolboy about to confess something. "Laura," he started, "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life." I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Which part? Leaving me? Or thinking a 26-year-old was going to build a life with you?" His face flinched like my words had landed hard. I thought I was missing something. That maybe life had passed me by, and Hannah, he paused, she made me feel like I was 25 again. I let out a sharp laugh. "So you traded 30 years for 25 minutes of feeling young?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at his hands. It wasn't what I thought. At first, it was exciting. She laughed at my stories, wanted to travel, wanted late nights and spontaneity. But the reality was we had nothing in common. She didn't understand my past. She didn't care about my memories. She wanted me to be someone I'm not, and I tried. God, I tried. But I was just exhausted. I could almost see it, him trying to keep up with a life that didn't fit him anymore. I didn't pity him. Not yet. But I understood the weight of pretending to be someone you're not. "And now?" I asked, my voice steady. "She's gone," he admitted. "Left me for someone closer to her age. Said I was too serious. Too boring." The irony wasn't lost on either of us. There was a long pause. I looked at him, this man I'd built a life with, who had once been my safe place, who'd broken me in the quietest, cruelest way possible. "Why are you here, Jack?" I finally asked. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real fear there. "Because the only person who ever really knew me was you." And I threw that away. That sentence, it should have made me feel vindicated. Powerful. Maybe even satisfied. But instead, it sat heavy in my chest. I thought of all the nights I'd cried into my pillow, all the times I'd wondered what I'd done wrong, all the moments I'd pictured this exact scene, him admitting he'd made a mistake. Now that it was happening, I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I felt tired. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, needing the space. He followed me with his eyes but didn't move. "Jack," I said finally, "do you have any idea what you left me with? You didn't just walk out on a marriage. You walked out on decades of trust. You left me to rebuild myself from the ground up. And I did. Without you." His jaw tightened. "I know. And I hate myself for it. I wake up every day wishing I could go back. But you can't," I said softly. Silence settled over us again. I realized then, his regret wasn't a magic key that could unlock what we once had. It was just a shadow of the life we'd already buried. Still, something in me needed to hear the rest. "What happened after you left?" I asked. He exhaled deeply, like the answer was too heavy to carry. Hannah wanted excitement. New restaurants, concerts every weekend, vacations we couldn't afford. I tried to keep up, I even dipped into savings. She called me old-fashioned when I wanted a quiet night in. And then one day, she just packed her things. No fight, no drama. Just said she couldn't see herself with me long-term. I almost wanted to say, "Now you know how it feels." But I didn't. Instead, I asked, and now you think you can just come back? He shook his head. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I regret it. Every single day. I looked at him for a long time. This was the man I'd once loved so deeply I couldn't imagine a world without him. And yet, here we were, two people with the same history but entirely different futures. Jack, I said finally, regret is your burden. Healing is mine. And I've been doing just fine without you. His eyes dropped to the floor. He nodded slowly, like he knew that was the closest thing to closure he'd get. But deep down, I knew this conversation wasn't over, for either of us. Jack didn't leave that night. I'd half expected him to take my words as a closed door and walk away into the night. But instead, he asked, almost timidly, could we talk more? Maybe over dinner sometime? Dinner. The man had walked out without looking back, now wanted to share a meal, like we could just pick up where we left off. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I busied myself in the kitchen, rinsing my glass, folding a dish towel. Small movements to buy myself time. Finally, I said, Jack, you're not just someone I can have dinner with. You're the person who ripped the ground out from under me. And I'm still standing, but not because you helped me back up. He nodded, like he understood. But then he started showing up. At first, it was small things, a bag of groceries left on my porch, flowers with no note, a box of my favorite tea. Then, the bigger gestures, offering to fix the squeaky door hinge, mowing the lawn, sending me links to recipes he thought I'd like. It was strange. For 30 years, I'd begged him to notice the little things, and now he was noticing everything. One Saturday, I saw him at the farmer's market. He was standing by the honey stand, holding a jar I'd bought every fall for years. Thought you might be running low, he said with a half smile. We walked together through the stalls, and for a brief moment, it felt familiar. Like the old us. But I knew better. That night, I sat in my living room and thought about the years we'd shared, and the year we'd lost. I remembered our children's first steps, the vacations where the car broke down, the nights we stayed up talking until dawn. But I also remembered the coldness in his voice the night he left, and the emptiness that followed. One evening, he knocked again. This time, he came with something in his hands, a photo album. I found this in storage, he said. I thought maybe we could look at it together. We sat at the kitchen table flipping through the pages. There we were, young and tired with newborn Michael, laughing in the backyard with Sarah chasing bubbles, our first trip to the coast. My chest tightened at the memories. Laura, he said quietly, I threw this away for nothing. I thought I was chasing happiness, but I was running from it. I met his eyes. There was no arrogance there anymore, no defensiveness. Just a man who'd been humbled by his own choices. But here's the thing about heartbreak, you can forgive, but you can't forget. And sometimes, you can't go back, no matter how much you want to. Jack, I said softly, these memories are precious to me. But they're in the past. And Eve built a life now, a different one, without you. His face fell, but he nodded. I understand. I just needed you to know I'll always be sorry. The next morning, there was a single envelope in my mailbox. No name, just my address. Inside was a letter, pages of his handwriting, telling me how much he'd learned, how empty the last year had been without me, how he'd give anything for one more chance. I read it twice. And then I put it back in the envelope and tucked it into the photo album. Because maybe some things don't need an answer. And that's where I leave it. After 30 years together, he left me for someone younger. Now he regrets it. But the question isn't whether he's sorry, it's whether I still care. Final audience question for engagement. If you were in my shoes, would you take him back, or would you let him live with his regret?